Welcome Thunder Squad, this is the Raikaze here. Today I'm bringing you another top 5 Pokemon video. So we've already actually covered our favorite Pokemon top 5s in Gen 1 and Gen 2. So we're going to continue to follow suit today and we're going to go through Gen 3. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop right on into that list. Coming up today on our number 5 spot, we have Latias. Latias was a Pokemon that is paired with Latios, but Latias was very dear to me because as I played through the original Ruby and Sapphire, you had to go through, of course, the variation of the battle tree, but it's like the Battle Maison at that period. That is where I was able to actually finally reach 100 straight wins. Latias was that pivotal Pokemon that was able to survive attacks and then help bring victory, and it was not easy. And I'm so happy that I had my Latias to make sure I was able to actually win those matches. So Latias is in number 5. Bringing us today quickly at number 4, we actually have our special Pokemon, Ninjask. Ninjask was a very important Pokemon because, of course, you had that speed boost ability because these are when the abilities were kicking in. I was using Double Team, had the Focus Sash, Swords Dance, Baton Pass, boom. That Pokemon was coming through for me. And it was also a very crucial Pokemon in my life itself because me using that strategy, and then I started battling some people and they said, oh, that's banned, and I had no idea what was going on, and I thought it was officially banned, like how the Pokemon card games that they will say, oh, and Yu-Gi-Oh card games, they'll say, oh, that's banned. And I thought that was a say-all-be-all. Then later on I found out that was a Smogon thing, and that was a completely different type of rule set, and I had stopped using strategy. I had stopped playing for a while because I had no idea I didn't like when somebody was telling me, oh, you are banned from doing something. I'm like, this is just a regular Pokemon. It's not like it's a super legendary or anything like that. So it was a very crucial Pokemon, and of course it's a ninja Pokemon, so I loved it. And it's just that people were just going against it, and I just did not care for that. But then once I learned more things about it, and I was like, oh, I can do what I want. But Ninjask was always a very crucial Pokemon whenever I went through inside of different battles and things like that. And using that Baton Pass, people could not overcome it. And up at number 4, we got Ninjask. Coming at you with the menacing look for number 3, we have Absol. If you all have ever seen Jirachi the Wishmaker movie from Pokemon, and seen Absol inside of that movie, that was the intense Pokemon. Almost made it as if he was the legendary. It's the disaster Pokemon that whenever he comes, you'll see the whirlwinds, the tornadoes, and everybody was saying, oh, it brings disaster. However, it came to find out that Absol is one that actually is warning that a disaster is coming. So it's not necessarily that Absol is actually being bad. But at the same time, doesn't matter to me. Because throughout even the movie, everybody thought Absol was just evil. And the way how he presented himself, yes, it looked evil. And guess what? I loved it. And then there's also the, if y'all have ever seen Skrill, or some people say Escryed, or it's a different anime. You had Ryuho, who uses his altar is called Zetsui, and Zetsui had that shield that came over his face, and that's why whenever I use my Absol is always named Zetsui because of its hair, mane, or whatever you want to call it, that covers one of its eyes. It is a very beautiful Pokemon, and then when it Mega Evolves, gains those wings and more power. Oh yeah, Absol is definitely one to take home. So Absol is on our number 3. Bringing us to our number 2 spot today, we have Salamence. Salamence is a Pokemon, yes, it's one of the pseudo-legendaries of the game, and people think, oh, well, that's why you're going to use it, because a lot of people use it for competitive and things like that. But no, the reason why I love Salamence so much is because it was the Pokemon that evolved purely out of willpower. Bagon always dreamed to fly, and that pure desire is what actually forced it to change its molecular structure in its evolutionary stage to become what we know as Salamence. And then also when it has this mega evolution now, and it's talking about it's the Crescent Pokemon that it will fly straight, not even stopping, and then it would almost like it's dripping in blood because it's slicing through people and it doesn't even stop. How menacing is that? I love those type of lures with certain Pokemon, and Salamence is definitely on that high-end list. And we got ourselves on our number 2 spot, the Pokemon that forced itself to evolve through its willpower to gain its wings. We got Salamence. Alright, y'all know this. We're going into our number 1 spot, but before we do, we're going to give us 2 honorable mentions today. And first one of our honorable mentions is Milotic, or some say Melodic, or however you want to pronounce it. But Milotic is definitely a Pokemon that I loved because you had to get that Feebas, especially back in the actual Ruby and Sapphire, where you had to raise its beauty up to the absolute maximum. That was not an easy thing to do, and it had to be max if you wanted it to evolve. And getting Feebas in for one was already difficult enough because it was extremely rare to get, and you had to fish it up. And then you had to raise its beauty up to maximum, and then you can actually evolve it. But when you were playing through the game and you actually went up against one of the gym leaders and he sent out a Melodic, when it came out and that cry that it gives, it is just majestic, and it's almost like it's haunting at the same time. And I loved Melodic, and it's actually a very competitive Pokemon using its competitive ability. So it's definitely a great Pokemon that slithers on through as it's a beauty snake. So one of our runner-ups here is Melodic. Next runner-up that we have today is going to be Metagross. Metagross, another pseudo-legendary. It's like they had 2 pseudo-legendaries in this generation. Don't know why. But Metagross is definitely a top Pokemon of mine because I trained one from my Beldum, got it evolved up to Metagross. You're playing through the game, didn't know, yet again, what you were getting yourself into because you had a pseudo-legendary already. Didn't expect this one to be as difficult to train as well, even though it evolved a little bit earlier, but still. This Pokemon was intense. Very difficult to level up because it didn't learn a lot of moves, but once you got it evolved and then finally into a Metagross, you had yourself a powerhouse. Metagross is definitely a very, very, very strong Pokemon. That Steel Psychic type, high defensive stats made it survive all those earthquakes, physical attacks, and things like that. So you were able to use his typing and defensive stats to overcome most opponents that you came up against. So, and the steel type as well, you know, it's already very defensive as it is. So you got yourself a really powerful Pokemon. So Metagross was also one of our runner-ups. Alright, so we're coming into our number 1 spot, and we're going to make a little side turn here because have you all ever seen Dragon Ball Z? Hope you all have, but I've met some people that actually haven't, and it just drops my face. But anywho, one of my top enemies in Dragon Ball Z that I love to death is Kid Buu. Kid Buu was the enemy that would just destroy planets without even thinking, blow himself up on that same planet, and then regenerate. He was completely menacing, and that stance that he did when he first came out, and he was just almost like he was in a daze. Even the Super Buu started hanging his head to the side and things like that. But why do I bring this enemy up? It's one of my favorite enemies. And then it also had that same stance, and I noticed it immediately when this Pokemon showed up in the wild. And our number 1 Pokemon is Zangoose. This Pokemon has that stance of the Majin Buu. And then when you also have it shiny, it's blue on top of that. Oh, yes! And that's why my shiny Zangoose that I've sent out many times that y'all have seen is called Kid Buu Blue. That is my Pokemon. Love it to no end. Its Pokedex entry speaks about the scars on its body, which is coming from its pure rivalry with Seviper. So you have a Pokemon that's you're capturing in the wild that has scars all over its body because it's constantly fighting against a snake. How is this? And then with its ability, it naturally has immunity to poison. And that's because it's fighting poison Pokemon all the time. So it developed an immunity to this poison. Nice. And then you got the one with the hidden ability with the toxic boost, so that if it does get poisoned, then it will actually boost its attack stat. Even better. So you got yourself a beautiful Pokemon here. Zangoose. Definitely a Pokemon that you actually want to have on your team just for that lore. And if you get it with the hidden ability, and if you can just get it speed up, you can sweep a team. I promise you. So I love my Zangoose. He's amazing. Kid Buu Blue. Yes. Okay. And he is our number one. So there you all have it. My top 5 Pokemon of Generation 3. What are your top 5 Pokemon? I'll be happy to know about it. And if you make sure you leave your comments in below so I can actually know what your top 5 Pokemon are. We can have some general discussions about that. And aside from that, make sure you, if you did like this video, make sure you like it. Make sure you share it with your friends. And make sure you subscribe if you're new. So without further ado, this is going to be the Raikaze signing off. You all know what to do. Stay strong. Power on. Catch y'all later.